Hi, this is Professor Bunting. I wanted to make some comments. I've just finished grading the review of literature, and a lot of you are still a little bit confused. I want to make sure that you understand the purpose of that part of the paper. You need to go back to your research question. The research question is vital in everything else that you do. So if your research question isn't really appropriate, your entire paper is going to be a little bit off. So let's go back. The research question needs to be something that is not obvious. It's something you're going to prove. So, for instance, is diabetes harmful to the heart? Whatever. Well, that's pretty well established. Does smoking cause lung cancer? Yeah, that's established as well. What are the causes of blank? That's too broad. So what you need to do is, a lot of you are still thinking about this as just an informative paper. So when I've looked at your research, you may have 4 articles on what causes obesity. And you're talking about diet, and you're talking about exercise, and you're talking about everything but genetics. It's true that people are obese because of their lifestyle and their diet. So that's not something you have to prove. Everybody knows that obesity has health problems, so that's not something you have to prove. You need to find a question that your research will center on. The people that did the best on this were people that actually use the databases, because obviously if you're going to the web and you type in diabetes, obesity, depression, you're going to get very broad things. You're going to get the kind of articles that you used when you wrote the technical description. And the purpose of the technical description was to be broad, to talk about causes, effects, everything. The purpose of this is to prove something. So I've made extensive comments on your papers. A lot of you did a wonderful job in the summaries. Great summaries, great article choices in terms of valid sources. They came from good websites. You did a good job on the evaluation. The problem was you had 4 articles, none of which were related to your research question. So does this mean that you wasted this time? Not necessarily. You might find this information useful when you go back and revise your introduction and your background information. You may find that you can use some of this in your conclusion, but the main part of this paper, when I'm grading it, when you get it all put together, is that review of literature, because the review of literature is going to prove or disprove your hypothesis. So let me just say this one more time. You've got a question. Do vaccines cause autism? That's your question. Now your hypothesis is, what do you think the answer is? I think vaccinations do not cause autism. So then when you do your search, you don't just type in autism. You type in vaccinations and autism. If you're doing obesity, don't just type in obesity. Type in obesity and genetics. If you're doing alcoholism, we all know that alcohol affects the body in certain ways. That's not where you want to go with the review of literature. With a review of literature, you want to say, is alcoholism hereditary? Then you would type in genetics and alcoholism. Or maybe you want to say, does AA 12-step program work? Then type in programs and effectiveness. Those are the kinds of things that you need to do. Now, if I told you that you needed to tweak your research question, if you use one of my suggestions, that's fine. But if you come up with something else, send me an email and tell me what you're going to do before you go in and do the research on it. I don't want you to spend a lot of time, because right now we're kind of at a point where if you didn't do the review of literature correctly, as in it doesn't answer your research question, then your next 2 sections are going to have problems, because you're drawing conclusions from something you don't really have the information on. And then your recommendations, again, need to be based on that review of literature. So I gave you grades on this. I don't really want to see it again, but I just want to warn you that when you do that section of your paper, the review of literature, all 4 of those articles need to directly answer that research question. So some of you may need to have to go back and find 4 more articles if none of them were related. If your research question is wrong, please, please, please fix it before you turn in the next 2 sections. Okay, that's about it, and I've got these back to you, so make sure that you look at the comments I made and make the corrections. Thanks. Have a great day.